Hey, this is Brooke, functional medicine dietitian specializing in fertility, and this is the Fertility Dietitian podcast, where I help you uncover the barriers that are preventing you from optimizing your fertility and teach you how to work with your body to finally take home a healthy baby. Each week, I will be diving into different topics on fertility and sharing my perspective on physiology, metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle approaches that have helped hundreds of couples get pregnant even after years of heartache. My goal is to empower you with the knowledge you need to take back control of your fertility. Happy listening. Let's get right into it. I have reviewed hundreds of fertility lab panels, many of them labeled as normal, and inside a lot of those, I see very similar patterns over and over again. These are typically the couples that are told that everything looks fine and they're labeled with that unexplained infertility stamp. These are the couples that are being told that IVF is the next step. But when you actually take a deeper look, the body is giving very clear signs and signals. And today I want to walk you through the most common red flags that I see, why they matter, and what you can start doing right away. Because this is where we stop guessing and actually start getting results. Okay. So the very first one that is oh so common to see on a quote unquote normal lab panel is a TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, that is above a 2.5. You may have been told that this is in range and it's typically not going to be flagged because standard range as normal is up to 4 on a lab panel. But for fertility, this is not optimal. Your thyroid controls energy production, and reproduction is an energy expensive process, okay? And this is not just something that we've made up, okay? It's well documented that TSH below 2.5 is what we want for the best fertility and reproductive outcomes. And aside, like as soon as you become pregnant, that's where the range switches to. Also, we're looking for below 2.5. So if your TSH is above 2.5, your body is getting the message to conserve, not to create. So here's what to do. You want to make sure that you're eating enough. Undereating is one of the fastest ways to suppress thyroid function. We want to make sure we're prioritizing protein and carbohydrates at each and every meal. Support key nutrients like selenium and iodine and zinc, and make sure that you're getting that morning sunlight every day, ideally within 30 minutes of waking for best support there for your thyroid. And make sure you're protecting your sleep. Okay. If it is elevated, ask your body why. This might sound a little silly, but you want to ask why it doesn't feel safe enough. Okay. Why does it not feel safe enough to produce energy? Because again, fertility and reproduction is an extremely energy intensive process, and thyroid is one of the major foundations to be able to support and create that energy. And ideally, we're looking at more than just that TSH marker, but TSH is a very standard marker to get. So if you can get a free T3 and a free T4, it tells us more to the story, more about how to individualize that approach for the thyroid support too. But starting with that TSH on that basic lab panel, check out where it is coming in for you. The next marker is also having to do with the thyroid, but it's all about antibodies. So if there are thyroid antibody presence, whether they are the TPO or the TG antibodies, it means that there is immune activation occurring. So thyroid antibodies are sometimes something you have to request depending on the type of provider that you've seen, but should be part of your fertility workup, especially if you've been trying to conceive for some time. It's not just about your thyroid when they are present. Implantation requires immune tolerance, and your body has to accept an embryo essentially. So in doing so, there has to be an immune system shift in order to accept that embryo. If your immune system is on high alert, that process becomes harder. And we do see longer time to conception and longer time to healthy baby. So there is increased risk of miscarriage as well as a harder time getting pregnant in the first place when thyroid antibodies are elevated, even if all other thyroid hormones are normal. Okay. So what do we do if thyroid antibodies are present? Well, we ideally learn why they're present. Gut health is huge for this, but even without testing the gut, we want to make sure that you're removing common immune triggers. Gluten can potentially be one of these. If we get a gut test, we can know if this is one that you should be eliminating or not. So it definitely takes a lot of guesswork out there. And we always want to be really careful when we're removing something like gluten because we want to make sure we're replacing it or filling in the nutrient gaps appropriately. We want to make sure that you're optimizing your vitamin D, very important for immune health and stability, increasing anti-inflammatory foods and reducing toxic exposures. Fragrance, for instance, is a big one when it comes to thyroid health. And your immune system is always going to be responding for a reason. So we have to find the trigger. And these are some of the big places that we want to start. The next lab marker that ideally we are looking at, making sure it's not popping up as a red flag, but it is a very common one that I see being a red flag, even if your labs have been labeled normal, is ferritin. A ferritin below 50 or above 100. Those are red flags, okay? Ferritin is your iron storage. If it is too low, you can't support oxygen delivery for egg development and for lining health. Iron is a really important part of that energy creation and nutrient delivery when it comes to reproduction and really overall cellular health. And if it is too high, if ferritin's too high, it's often inflammation related. As for what to do, if ferritin is too low, we want to make sure you're increasing iron-rich foods. Never start with supplementation for iron. Iron regulation is quite complex in supplementation form and can actually add to more issues. And so ideally, we're looking at a full iron panel in addition to ferritin, but ferritin can be one of those markers that can clue you in to what's going on and why your body's not feeling safe enough to get pregnant yet. So increasing iron-rich foods is where I would start. These are your red meats. Also pairing them with vitamin C is really helpful. Yes, some plant foods have iron in them too, like our dark leafy greens, for instance, but it is way less bioavailable. So that means that it's way harder for our bodies to get that iron and use it appropriately because there's a whole process in conversion from that type of iron. So your animal proteins are really going to be preferable for iron. And we also have to make sure that we're supporting digestion and gut health because we have to be able to get those nutrients out of the food like iron. Gut health is always going to be part of the picture for fertility. And if you want to learn much more about that, I have full podcast episodes that we'll link in the show notes for gut health as well. If your ferritin is high, you want to be checking inflammation markers like CRP. You want to investigate the gut health. You want to avoid blind supplementation of iron. So make sure you stop supplementation if you're seeing a high ferritin and you have been supplementing it, because high ferritin, again, is definitely associated with inflammation and also with dumping iron into the tissues. So when we get too much iron overload sort of picture, our body has to put it somewhere. And if it can't continue to put it into storage like ferritin, it's going to end up in our tissues, creating more inflammation and more challenges around reproduction also. Our cholesterol is another area in our lab panel that can be alerting us to red flags with reproduction and how safe your body's feeling to support fertility. So a cholesterol below 160 is a red flag. Cholesterol is a building block for hormones, and low cholesterol can directly impact ovulation and progesterone production. So if it is low, you want to make sure that you're eating enough overall. You want to make sure that you're including lots of healthy fats every day, every meal, really. You want to stop avoiding cholesterol-rich whole foods and you want to make sure that you're supporting fat digestion. So again, the gut and the gallbladder health are really important for how we are producing cholesterol and even supporting cholesterol regulation. So when we talk about cholesterol regulation, we're talking about the balance between HDL and LDL. And another red flag that can pop up commonly on quote unquote normal labs is HDL. HDL below 70 is a red flag. HDL is often called the good cholesterol, and it's way more than that. It actually plays a role in hormone production, inflammation regulation, metabolic health. And low HDL is often a sign that the body is not metabolically supported. Increasing omega-3s like your fatty fish, salmon and sardines are great options there. Strength training regularly, improving blood sugar balance is really important for overall cholesterol regulation. Reducing processed foods as much as possible and getting consistent movement in daily. So on top of strength training, also movement like walking is going to be really helpful for overall cholesterol regulation too. A fasting insulin above 10. So hopefully you've gotten a fasting insulin. It's not always standard, but it should be something that you're requesting if you haven't in your fertility workup, because metabolic health is so important. And again, how we are creating energy is huge it's a big foundational part of supporting egg quality, hormone health, lining health, and just how safe the body feels to pour resources into reproduction. So your fasting insulin number is something you want to check, and it should be below 10. Okay. Even with normal glucose, if it is above 10, it's a problem because elevated insulin drives inflammation and disrupt hormone signaling, and it impacts ovulation and egg quality very directly because of the energy creation that it's involved in. And so what you want to do if it is above 10 is you want to make sure that you're really focusing on protein. Your meals should be built around it. Don't skip meals because if your blood sugar is unstable, it can lead to even more instability if you're going long periods without eating. Walking after meals, even 5 minutes can make a difference there. Strength training, building muscle is absolutely going to improve your insulin sensitivity. Focusing on whole food, fiber-rich carbohydrates alongside your protein is really important. And fiber is also very supportive of that cholesterol regulation too, but very important for insulin stability or sensitivity. Your sleep is also really important for insulin sensitivity, as is your inflammation as a whole. So all of these are very much connected. Typically, we don't just see one of them out of range because they are so closely related to each other. And speaking of inflammation, CRP level is also something that we want to make sure that we have had checked in our basic blood work, because it is a marker of inflammation. And if that CRP is above 1, we know that there is more inflammation, creating a barrier for reproduction. Inflammation affects egg quality, implantation, and early pregnancy. So if you do have a high CRP, we want to make sure that we're ruling in or out some of the other markers like your cholesterol regulation, your iron balance, your insulin, all going to be related to inflammation. And we want to make sure that we're increasing anti-inflammatory foods. Think lots of vibrant colors and fiber, citrus and berries. You want to make sure that you're prioritizing sleep, getting daily sunlight, supporting your gut health, and evaluating oral health. Your oral health is so important for reproduction for so many reasons, and can definitely be an underlying reason for inflammation if some of those other metabolic markers are normal. Another marker that should absolutely be in your basic workup when we're talking about fertility is prolactin. A prolactin above 10 is a red flag. Most labs will tell you that this is normal until it's much higher, like 25, I think is the standard reference range there. But for fertility, even mildly elevated prolactin can interfere with ovulation and that energy production in helping your body feel safe enough to reproduce. So it can suppress the signals needed to ovulate, and it's a sign of stress too. So If it's elevated, if it's really, really elevated, that requires a look at your pituitary gland for any sort of like tumor related concerns. But if it's in like the lower ranges, like 20, even up to 50, really, you address the stress and nervous system regulation states. You evaluate sleep quality. You check for thyroid imbalances. You reduce excessive exercise if it's present, especially in the presence of undereating. You support dopamine naturally with things like morning sunlight, adequate protein intake, and then you recheck to make sure. And that's true for all of these markers. You want to recheck after you make some of these changes to make sure that they're trending in the right direction. And last but not least, a lab marker that is likely going to have to be requested, even though it's so important for how we're assessing metabolic health and reproduction, is leptin. Get your leptin checked along with your fasting insulin. It's a basic blood marker. You shouldn't have to push very hard to get it. Fasting leptin above 10 is a red flag. Leptin is your satiety and energy signaling hormone. It tells your brain whether you have enough energy stored to support reproduction. And if leptin is elevated, your body may be in a state of resistance. So the signal is there, but your brain is not receiving it clearly. So your body's pumping out more and more of that signal to try to get it to listen. This creates a mismatch in energy signaling, and it can absolutely disrupt ovulation or just egg quality as a whole. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on consistent meal timing. That's protein focused. You want to avoid constant stacking throughout the day. So give yourself some time between meals, but not going like 6 hours without eating, right? You want to improve sleep quality. You want to reduce inflammation. You want to strength train and walk regularly, especially after meals. And you want to support metabolic health with whole, nutrient-dense foods. Okay, this was a lot of information. Always go back and re-listen, but here's what I want you to take away. None of these patterns are rare. They're extremely common. They're very much tied together, and they're often missed in a fertility workup because those lab ranges are not standard for reproduction. They're standard for the overall general health population, okay? And that's a really important key factor to not forget about. These markers are not random. They are telling you how your body is functioning, and they are showing you where your body does not feel safe or supported enough to pour that energy and resources into reproduction. And that matters because your body will not prioritize pregnancy unless it feels safe enough to do so. So you don't need more random supplements. You don't need more guessing. You need a strategy that looks at your body as a whole, one that actually connects your thyroid and your metabolism, your inflammation markers, immune health, and nutrient status together, because it all is connected and makes a difference for how your fertility is being supported. Your fertility is not fixed. It's very responsive. And when you change the environment, you absolutely change the outcome. I'd love to be part of your support team for you. Reach out anytime. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fertility Dietitian podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review to let me know what topics you want more of or less of. If you want to keep learning, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out my website for more info on my private coaching program, Master Your Fertility, or my membership community, Fertility Blueprint. And don't forget my digital store. Come say hi on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next episode.